Right now, if someone opens up ChatGPT and asks, what's the best product in your niche, and your brand isn't cited in the answer, you've potentially lost a customer. And with more and more people using AI tools to research and buy products, this is something every e-commerce store owner needs to start taking seriously when it comes to their SEO. But here's the worst part. You don't even know what's happening during the buyer journey. There's no misclick in your analytics and no abandoned session to look at. So the buyer just got a recommendation from AI, picked one of the options it gave them based on their preferences and history, and made a purchase. So I wanted to make this video to give you all the details on what's changed in how buyers discover and shop for products. I'll also explain why jumping straight into AI SEO tactics without having foundations will get you nowhere, and the specific steps you can take today so you're the brand AI recommends to people and not your competitors. So let's dive in. How AI is changing the way people shop online. So a few years ago, the buyer journey for most products looked the same. Type something into Google, scroll through results, click through to a store, and make a decision from there. But what's changed is that buyers now have a shortcut. AI. Tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity let someone ask a question like, what's the best protein powder for building muscle, and get back a specific recommendation with reasons without ever visiting a single store. These tools aren't just giving away links like traditional Google search results, they're giving verdicts. When Google returns 10 results, the buyer still has to do the work of comparing and deciding. When an AI tool answers, it's already done that work for them and it's handed them a shortlist of 2 or 3 options. So the brands that make that shortlist get considered, and the ones that don't are pretty much non-existent to the customer because they never get shown. So now it's worth being clear that AI isn't replacing Google, it's just sitting alongside it as an extra layer in the buying process. Research from SimilarWeb found that 95% of ChatGPT's 462 million users also actively use Google. So buyers aren't abandoning traditional search entirely, they're using AI tools for certain types of questions, usually the ones where they want a recommendation rather than a list of options. For e-commerce brands, that means you now have 2 places where buyers can find you: Google and AI platforms, and most brands are only optimizing for Google. By the way, if you're running an e-commerce store and you want to know where you actually stand with your SEO and AI visibility, click the first link in the description to book a call with us. We'll take a look at what's currently blocking your visibility and what the right next steps would look like for your specific situation. Now back to the video. Why most e-commerce brands are approaching this wrong. So the instinct when brands hear about AI search is to jump straight into AI SEO tactics, chasing GEO, trying to get into AI generated answers, and rewriting content specifically for AI platforms. But if your site isn't structurally sound, trying to gain visibility in AI platforms doesn't quite make sense. It's like trying to learn advanced submissions in jiu-jitsu before you even know how to defend yourself. The reason this backfires is because AI doesn't create visibility out of thin air. AI answers are generated from content that can be crawled, considered, and trusted. So if your foundations are weak, AI just amplifies the problems that are already there. GEO, AEO, LLL, MO, they all sound urgent and new, but the techniques behind them are largely the same foundations that good SEO has always been built on. Things like information architecture, high quality content, authority signals, and clean technical execution have not changed at all. What's changed is where visibility shows up, not what earns it. Now, with all this said, I'm not saying AI search isn't something worth paying attention to. It 100% is, but the brands that are actually benefiting from it are the ones that already have the SEO foundations in place. The ones rushing to do AI SEO without fixing what's underneath are spending time and money on the wrong things. The actual order of operations. So let's talk about what the right order of operations actually looks like when it comes to getting visible in both traditional search and AI-driven results. We think about it across 5 layers: distribution, content, brand, authority, and search. Most e-commerce brands are obsessed with the top layer being search, while everything underneath it still needs work. You only get the right to think about AI visibility once you get everything else right first. The first thing to sort out is just site structure and product architecture. For e-commerce, crawlability and indexing problems are very common, especially around product variants, duplicate content, and category depth. Now I'm going to share a specific example of a structural issue you'd commonly see in e-commerce sites that blocks proper crawling and indexing. I'm going to use one of our clients as an example, Manager Home, and how we navigated that issue and how we're actually leveraging it and benefiting from a problematic issue across a lot of sites. So the issue I want to talk about is duplicate content, specifically at the product level. So they do a lot of products around mobility, and one of the most popular products is rollators. And when we look at the rollator products themselves, they come in a variety of options, mainly color options. So there's a lot of variable elements. This one's quite cool, so let's click on that one. So many different product options in terms of color. You can even have a cheetah or zebra option as well, even flower power. So what we've done is have a specific URL for each of the variants, and I'll explain why. How we've navigated the duplicate content issue is ensure that we have a canonical URL pointing to the one that we want Google to reference. So this kind of navigates the duplicate issue of having these multiple pages with all having the same on-page content. Now, from a usability point of view, this actually helps the user a lot, having them on separate URLs, because it affects price sometimes. It affects, stock options as well. So in terms of the back end and the front end marrying each other, it works really well. The other benefit for us in doing it this way is that from a feed perspective, we're able to feed Google more rich information, especially when it comes to Google shopping campaigns. So from an organic and paid perspective, we're able to have much more product specific information in that feed. And this has helped us generate 5x the amount of sales that we normally get through organic shopping, as an example. And this was one of the unexpected wins that we got from the migration. It's not something that we expected to grow in terms of a channel for us in that regard, but Google Shopping is a consistent performer for us since the Shopify migration last year. So yeah, that's just one example of where the product variant issue can be managed and can actually be a benefit for an e-commerce store or brand. If Google and AI systems can't properly crawl and understand your product pages, you're not going to show up in either environment. The second layer is your product and category page content. Category pages need to be aligned to real commercial queries, not just broad terms. Product templates need to be consistent, detailed, and actually answer the questions buyers are asking at the point of purchase. We've seen directly with clients that remapping product relationships and improving product templates are two of the moves that tend to make the biggest difference. The third layer is data quality, which is something that seems to get overlooked a decent amount of the time. Clean, structured first-party data is the foundation of every marketing decision you make. If your analytics are unreliable, your tracking is off, or your product feed is messy, you're making decisions on bad information. In an AI-driven environment, poor data isn't just an analytics problem, it now becomes a commercial problem. Once you have those foundations solid, then you can start thinking about the AI-specific layer. And this is where entities matter more than keywords. Clear positioning, consistent language, well-defined use cases make your brand easier for AI systems to understand, verify, and cite. The simplest test for this is to ask yourself, if an AI tried to find your brand right now, would it be able to access your story, trust what it found, and repeat it back accurately? Brand mentions and third-party signals also become more important at this stage. Mentions across PR, reviews, listicles, and third-party platforms increasingly influence whether a brand gets surfaced into AI-generated answers. Your own website is only one part of it. How your brand shows up across the wider web matters just as much. And this is also where video starts to carry some serious weight. As text content becomes easier to produce at scale, human-led video is harder to replicate and is increasingly being surfaced by AI platforms. So if you're building content, video deserves a ton of attention at this layer. So I'm quickly going to share how video fits into an e-commerce brand's broader content and visibility approach. So I'm going to use a simple example, very popular search term, Nike shoes for men. Now I'm using Google's AI mode to kind of show you how AI systems could reference content across the web. So Nike shoes for men, you can see that typical websites are being referenced. Google is being referenced themselves. You got Nike, Sports Direct, probably other retailers will be showing underneath that. And then I've looked for reviews. And when we look at reviews, we can see that the top 2 results are actually YouTube videos. And these YouTube videos aren't very recent. So they may be very popular and they're really being trusted by these AI platforms. I think if I was somebody who had quite a good product and I wanted to showcase the best qualities, then perhaps investing in creators to create review content around that product would be a good strategy if I know there's a lot of people looking for this type of content. Because if it's important for users, then it's obviously going to be important for AI systems and AI platforms to leverage that content and trust it a lot more. How to adapt. So let's get into what this actually looks like for an e-commerce store right now. And it all comes back to that same question we mentioned earlier. If an AI platform tried to find your brand right now? Will it be able to access your story, trust what it found, and repeat it back accurately? If the answer is no, that's where you start, not with the new AI-specific tactics. In terms of what to prioritize, number one, get your site structure right first. Make sure your category and product pages are crawlable, well organized, and aligned to how your buyers are actually searching. Number two, make sure your product data is clean and your tracking is reliable, because bad data makes every decision downstream that much harder. And number three, build your brand presence away from your own site too, because reviews, mentions, and third-party coverage all carry more weight in an environment where AI is pulling from across the web. Now, in terms of what to stop doing, number one, just stop chasing AI SEO tactics before the layer underneath is sorted, like we mentioned earlier, and stop treating SEO as something separate from the rest of your marketing, because the brands seeing the best results are the ones where SEO, content, email, and paid are all reinforcing each other. We've seen from clients where integrating those channels properly led to paid search spend dropping significantly while revenue stayed strong. The last thing I'll say here is about timelines, because this isn't something that gets fixed in 30 days, no matter what anyone tells you. Anyone promising that your brand will be showing up in AI answers by next month isn't being straight up with you. Building this kind of visibility takes time because it's built on trust, and trust has to be earned. You can't really game the system. But when it compounds, it reduces your dependence on paid in a way that short-term tactics never will. So in terms of timelines and what e-commerce stores can actually expect when optimizing, let's say in an AI search-driven world, I'm going to reference one of our clients again, Manager Home, and how we've helped them in this regard. So specifically for their audience, what we realized when doing a number of tests at the meta title level and other page elements is that their buying audience, core buying audience, want to search for specific terms, and these lead to purchases. So X products for Y people. As an example, this could mean mobility aids for the elderly. So mobility aids being the product, and then the elderly being the people. This is how this would work at a practical standpoint. So I'm just gonna pop this into Google, mobility aids for the elderly. I'm gonna be a bit more specific as well, so it knows that we're trying to find online stores. And as you can see, a number of results pop up. I mean, these vary from time to time. When I first did the search, we were appearing at the top, but there we are just below in terms of the standard traditional Google search results. And in terms of AI mode, so this is Google Gemini's system. It references a number of brands, and we actually are referenced in that instance as well. So in terms of AI search, being really specific on the audience you want to target is the most critical thing that you can do. If you know your buying audience are using specific terms, then you need to reference those specific people in the content. And this is what can be achieved from a practical standpoint. In terms of how long this takes, I mean, we've worked with this client for over 18 months on a number of really technical projects, which eventually led to a Shopify Plus migration. But throughout that process, we had achieved significant gains at various periods within the project. When we are trying to assess the effectiveness of strategies in general in terms of SEO, I think it's important to understand that yes, things can take a very long time, but we've seen progress along the way. For this particular client, we've gotten amazing results. We 4x their purchases in terms of what the website's been able to do. Over the past 3 months, the first quarter of 2026, they've had an amazing start to the year, record growth across the board in both paid search as well as organic performance. And we've been a key part of making sure the foundations were set from the start and allowing us to appear in all these different platforms. So if you're running an e-commerce store and want to get a clear picture of where your organic foundation actually stands and what it would take to increase sales from both traditional search and LLMs, click the link in the description to book a free call with me. We work with a small number of e-commerce and B2B brands at a time, so every client gets direct access to the specialist working on their account and not an account manager in the middle. Again, you'll be able to book a call by clicking that first link in the description. And if you want a full Shopify SEO optimization guide, then check out this video next.